In 2000, Blockbuster turned down a chance to buy Netflix for $50 million. By 2010, the company filed for bankruptcy, owing $1 billion in debt. The story isn't about Netflix being smarter. It's about following the cash inside Blockbuster and watching where it actually went, because here's the trick. Blockbuster didn't fail because streaming existed. It failed because its own business model had become a financial trap that made it physically impossible to adapt. Let's start with the money that actually kept Blockbuster alive: late fees. In 1999, Blockbuster earned roughly $800 million in rental revenue. Late fees, about $200 million, roughly 25% of total revenue. That's not a side business, that's a revenue pillar. And when you build a company where a quarter of your income depends on customers forgetting to return tapes, you've built something fragile. But here's where the trap tightens. Blockbuster store model, thousands of physical locations packed with inventory, required constant cash flow just to survive. A single store might stock 4,000 to 5,000 titles. Multiply that across 9,000 locations at the peak, and you're talking about tens of millions of dollars locked in physical media that depreciates the moment a new release arrives. The rent was brutal too. Blockbuster signed long-term leases on premium retail locations, high-traffic shopping centers, and main streets where foot traffic was guaranteed. But you can't renegotiate a lease when the world changes. The cash kept flowing out to landlords whether customers showed up or not. Now, why didn't Blockbuster just pivot? Why not close stores and launch an aggressive streaming service? Because the business model wouldn't allow it. Every dollar spent on technology development was a dollar not available to pay down the debt that was already strangling the company. By 2004, when streaming was still theoretical, Blockbuster's debt had already climbed past $750 million. The company was leveraged to the hilt. It couldn't invest heavily in new technology because it was paying interest on old decisions. And here's the trick. The late fees that had once looked like profit were now the only thing keeping creditors at bay. In 2000, Reed Hastings, Netflix's founder, walked into Blockbuster headquarters and proposed a partnership. Netflix would handle the streaming and logistics. Blockbuster would provide the brand. Blockbuster's executives reportedly laughed him out of the room. Why? Because at that moment, Blockbuster was printing cash from late fees and the math didn't add up to them. The executives saw Netflix as a threat to their existing revenue stream, not as the future. And technically, they were right about the threat, but they were catastrophically wrong about the timeline. They assumed the DVD rental model would sustain them for decades. It didn't. It gave them 5 years, maybe 6. When streaming actually arrived around 2007, Blockbuster tried to launch Blockbuster Online. Too late. The company was already bleeding cash. The service never gained traction because Blockbuster couldn't afford to subsidize it the way Netflix could. Netflix was burning money on growth. Blockbuster couldn't afford to burn anything. The final blow came from the stores themselves. As streaming grew, fewer customers rented DVDs. Late fees evaporated. The revenue pillar collapsed. But the stores, still there, still paying rent, still carrying inventory that nobody wanted. The fixed costs remained while the revenue disappeared. By 2010, Blockbuster filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. The company owed $1 billion in debt. The stores closed. The inventory was liquidated. The brand that had seemed untouchable in 1999 evaporated in less than a decade. So what actually killed Blockbuster? Not Netflix, not streaming technology. It was the business model itself, one built on recurring revenue from consumer forgetfulness and locked into fixed costs that couldn't flex when the world changed. The company became its own cage. The real lesson isn't that disruption is inevitable. It's that when a company's profit depends on a model that can't scale or adapt, it's already doomed, it just doesn't know it yet. Blockbuster had the capital, the brand, and the distribution network to win. What it didn't have was the freedom to change, and in a shifting market, that's a death sentence. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research. If you want to understand how money actually moves through failed companies, how debt shapes decisions, and why some businesses can't adapt even when they see the future coming, subscribe. We break down the hidden economics behind every collapse, and there's a new case every week. Subscribe, there's a new unsolved case in business failure every week. This video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice. Always do your own research.